Anyone else on WebEx that we have not identified that's a member of the Liberation and Freedom Committee? Oh. No? Can we hear now?
Okay.
Thanks, guys. All right, so we're going to start these meetings two separately, and then we can host it jointly. So we're going to adjourn, or not adjourn, we're going to kick off, call our meeting to order for the Liberation and Freedom Committee. In attendance today, we have Chair Blake Opohusky, myself, we have Tom Keelian, and we have Brenton Wildman. Is there anyone else on WebEx that we have not mentioned? All right. Then we can call our meeting to order, and then I will pass it off to John.
All right, and for this, our committee, the SEC, it looks like I am the chairman, John Kroll. In attendance, we have Mary, Tom Killian as our alderperson. Anybody else from the SEC in attendance? I can't tell those numbers there. Okay, perfect. All right.
Fantastic. Well, then I guess we can call our two committees together for a joint meeting here to discuss our agenda item today. It's our first and only item on today's joint meeting. It is to discuss possible action on the environmental justice resolution policy. As kind of background here, this is something that we've been talking about in the Liberation Freedom Committee here for the last couple meetings. But to provide further context, I'd love to pass it off to Tom Keelian, since he's really been the champion behind this piece of policy, just to kind of give us some more background knowledge as far as Evanston, how it was adapted to the Wausau, and we kind of take it there for discussion.
Thank you, Blake. Absolutely. So the draft resolution that we're reviewing today was inspired by and leverages language from Evanston, Illinois' resolution that was passed there in the recent past, and they too had done work between their quote-unquote diversity committee and their sustainability committee. So much like Wausau, those were the two relevant committees involved in putting together the language. And environmental justice, it was, as a policy instrument, really driven by the EPA, although it's been adopted by, I think, most or all federal agencies and many state agencies. And if you look at what the EPA intended in their materials, it's really intended to do two things. The first thing is to make sure that no group, particularly low wealth areas and people of color, face disproportionate burdens, risks, and consequences from environmental decisions and hazards. And when we talk about environment, we're not just talking about pollution, we're also talking about things like economic elements, housing, and transportation. And the second thing the EPA mentions is that public engagement and public involvement, that there's a robust public engagement process that provides equity to all and that is equally meaningful for all, particularly those in low wealth areas and for people of color. And so there are a lot more details and nuances we may talk about, but that's really the general background. And the objective was to bring that to the municipal level so that the city of Wausau is also leveraging that process and those ideals. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Tom. You know, I hope everyone had a chance to look over this resolution before the meeting here. As I was kind of overviewing, looking it over earlier this afternoon, I think it really kind of boils down to, and as Tom mentioned, it's the public engagement piece, making sure that there's equal access to environmental assets and also the protections. And then there's also a couple sections here of it calls for a GIS-based inventory of environmental justice areas in the city of Wausau. And then also it would lead to future developments of ordinances, codes, and policies, and also looking at and examining our current policies. Wonderful. Did anyone have any questions as you're reviewing the draft of that resolution that was included in your packet today?
I guess I just had some questions on your committee's perspective. What was the starting point for this? How did you guys bring this up during meetings? What was, the discussions you were having and why?
Thank you, Blake. There were a couple of things that contributed to triggering this discussion, and one of them was the city's past, just actually seeing and noting that there had been a disproportionate burden shouldered by certain low-wealth, diverse neighborhoods. But also we had been talking about public engagement processes as they related to current municipal issues, Thomas Street and the mall redevelopment. Those were two issues that we had discussed. So it seemed not only relevant to our history but our present, and seemed like kind of the best toolbox to address some of those challenges.
And of course, we're dealing with equitable access to resources here, so that's why it kind of fell in the realm of our newly formed Liberation and Freedom Committee too. But we wanted to partner with your committee because obviously this falls under both realms. Is there any further questions or discussion on this resolution?
I'm Mary. May I speak, please?
Of course.
Can you guys hear me? I can't tell exactly what's going on. It's hard on WebEx. I first want to say I'm really excited that both committees could come forward as, bringing this to the council. I think that's a strength. I was just curious if there might be any advantage, or maybe people don't know, but I think it was about 10 years ago, the city of Wausau actually declared itself an eco-municipality. And that it embraced 4 different, I forget what they called them, but kind of pillars. But one of them did have to do with the people aspect. Like, it wasn't just about, there were things about not using fossil fuels, or basically things that cannot be replenished. They're just being mined out of the earth, and not using fake created artificial chemicals and some other things like that, that just tried to talk about health of people and the planet. But then there's a step that has to do with their 4 principles. One has to do with the people aspect of it, that there's we try to do this equitably and create equity in our systems that we create. Would you think that the advantage in referencing the fact that Wausau had already declared itself an eco-municipality in the resolution?
Yeah, so Mary, I'm actually unfamiliar with this policy from 10 years ago. We'd have to do some more, looking into that, some more research to get the specifics on that, and if that would be appropriate to include that in there. But I think that would certainly build that. Wausau has worked on this in the past.
Because it's based on what they call the natural step, which was something that was created in Sweden. An oncologist started this movement to say we need all of our systems working to make the earth a healthier place and make it habitable for people, and making it but like, so the whole society here, I found a reference, like, I don't know exactly the principles that were embraced, but I do remember that there were these 4 principles that were similar to the natural step principles. Someone would have to go do some digging in the Wausau archives, I guess, but the last one is that societal systems that we don't let our structures be obstacles to health of individuals in the systems, and equal treatment, and allowing people to connect to a larger purpose, that sort of thing. So it really talked about, again, the people aspect of it. So I don't know how that was worded now in the resolution from several years ago, but I'm thinking it was probably 10 years ago they did that. I did do a very brief search online for if there's any notes like that were accessible through the city archives, but I couldn't find anything to that resolution.
Yeah, that would definitely behoove us to look into that to see if this has been explored from 10 years ago. And, I think that, the point of this resolution is to speak in one voice as a city body, saying that we support this, and we can definitely develop, maybe it's resurrecting the four principles from before to address that, or maybe it's something new. But this kind of kicks off the start to show that the city does take this, will take this under consideration, and will develop a strategy going forward.
I could totally see building upon what the city did before, we are bringing this to say this is what we more specifically mean around that principle.
Yeah, that's great input. Yeah, we'll certainly investigate that a little bit further. And I know that we don't have a quorum on the Sustainability, Energy, and Environmental Commission, but I think we do have a quorum for the Liberation and Freedom Committee today. So we do have the opportunity to pass action to send this on to Public Health and Safety. So I guess at this point, if there isn't any other discussion or input today, we can look at that as well. And all that requires is a motion.
I'll second that.
All right. Well, actually, do you want to motion it?
Yes, I would, Blake, thank you. I'll make a motion to do that, to send this along to Public Health and Safety with our approval.
Perfect. And then Brenton, I see you're on the line. Would you be able?
Correct? Yeah, I second that.
Second. Perfect. Excellent. And then we'll also include in there, maybe this actually takes another motion and second, but also to look into the policy from 10 years ago. Yeah, do we need a motion for that or no? 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 Okay. We will, thank you, Mary, for bringing that up. We will dig into that further. Fantastic. Tom?
And just prior to voting on this, Blake, I just want to make sure there weren't any citizens on the line or there that had any comments or input.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have any members of the public?
Yes, how you doing? My name is Chris Markley. Can you hear me?
We can. The floor is yours, Chris.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Barely. Okay. So, as Tom probably has referred to, kind of in light of how we are acknowledging things going at the county level with diversity or with inclusion at the city level, it is important that such documents or such environmental justice policies do pivot to actually acknowledge these disparities and how we need to actually take a frontal look at these disparities in a environmental way, meaning people have also not just a right to be heard, but also a right to participate in finding out what the solutions are. For me, environmental justice is a product of exclusionary practices socially and economically. 9 times out of 10, we don't need this except when you have communities that don't have a social standing or an economic standing in public policy. So while we're giving people voices, we also need to give them the empowerment to move up. So they're not just constantly sitting ducks, being people just waiting to plunder on their community. the community needs to become of greater value itself, socially and economically. And such environmental justice policies can offer us a hand up in this direction. It can offer the city an opportunity and even others the opportunity to participate in this. Equity is a good word. It's a kin word to liberty, to freedom, to a fair participation and access to all institutions. No one should be afraid or unwilling to create an environment of justice and equity for everyone. And so this is one of these moments that where this is and should be used as not only just a tool to protect the environment, but start building up people's social standing as well as their economic standing within the community. It gives people a policy in which they can lean on that gives them the authority and the responsibility to take it on. So that's my hope along with pushing this forward. That the communities start to see that we can use a lot of these tools in more than just one way. We don't have to just keep using them in one way. We can mechanize them to be useful in many ways. And social and economic equity is one of them, and it is absolutely a matter of what is a just community, what's a just society. So, with that, okay.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for the input. I think this policy really addresses a lot of your concerns, especially with public comment and engagement in there. But of course, we highly encourage you to join us at the Public Health and Safety meeting when this will be on the agenda to be discussed further. Tom?
Thank you, Blake. I think just building on what Mr. Norfleet had said, I think, yes, this is kind of multifaceted where the protections provided, I think they will protect the community better from certain polluters, certain types of predatory development in neighborhoods, but also to some degree, government policy itself, meaning that, well, most people will do the right, protective, honorable thing on their own as an elective. This makes it less of an elective, and it takes that option out of the consideration set, the option that policy may damage or harm vulnerable segments. So I think that was a very good, interesting point, and this would be kind of a comprehensive set of protection. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Any other discussion or input today? John?
I'm curious how this is going to be passed to the city council. Is this going to be a standalone policy or resolution or a package or something else? What's going to be the process after this?
I think the intention is to pass this as a standalone resolution. And then from that, what we saw in Evanston is that this did result in recommendations on different ordinances and policies being developed because of it.
Do we know when Public Health and Safety gets it next, and do we know when they're going to potentially be taking action?
Of course, that's a good question, Mary. We're looking into it right now. The 15th of March, 5:15. And that's a Monday evening, if I recall. Yep. All right. If there isn't any further conversation or discussion on this matter, we do have the motion and second to pass this on the Liberation and Freedom Committee, so that will be on Public Health and Safety. If there is no other discussion or input, we will call the Liberation and Freedom Committee adjourned.
I believe we have to vote on that.
Vote? Okay,
Yes.
that's kidding. We need a vote on that, so I need a motion.
On the motion on the floor, sir, the motion with the second to pass along to public health and safety, I think.
Thank you, Tom. So we have the motion and then also the second from Brenton. Brenton, can we get you a second?
Yep.
Oh, I think we just need you to say a second.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I second that.
Perfect. Thank you, bud.
Sorry about that.
Then my vote is aye.
Perfect. Brenton, your vote? An aye or a nay?
Aye.
Aye. Fantastic. And with that, we'll go on to public health and safety then.
Question for John Kroll.
Yes, Mary?
Do we have a quorum that our committee could also vote to support this and move it on to the Public Health and Safety Committee?
I don't think we have enough people here for the quorum, so that's something.
That's what I suspected. Okay.
If we have a meeting before it's passed on, is that possible then? It is. So if we can have a meeting before that is passed along to the health and safety, we can have a vote, get to support that. So that's something we can look into after today.
Let's try to do that.
Sure. I agree.
Great.
Okay, so we are officially adjourned. Thank you all.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.